may not believe it, but hell is real. I know because I was there. It was not a dream nor a hallucination. It was an experience that completely changed everything I thought about life, faith, God, and what really happens after death. What I'm about to tell you may make many uncomfortable, but it is the truth, a truth that many choose to ignore, but from which no one can escape. If you discovered that your decisions in this life have eternal consequences, that something as common today as divorce or a marriage made without the blessing of God can determine the destiny of your soul forever. I did not know it either, until God took me to see with my own eyes. Hell is a place of torment where souls cry out for a second chance that will never come. Heaven, instead, is a place of glory reserved only for those who truly obey the will of God. I'm not here to scare you, but to warn you. You may think you have time, that you can decide later, that you can live as you want without consequences. But what if time runs out? What if today were your last chance to change your destiny? What I am going to reveal to you now can transform your life. But the question is, are you ready to listen? Brothers and sisters, what I am going to share with you today is not just a story, but a real and shocking testimony. I know that many may doubt, others may be impressed, but I ask you to stay with me until the end. What I experienced completely changed my vision about faith, about God, about Jesus, and above all, about the eternal consequence of our choices here on earth. This is not a message to be ignored. God, in His infinite grace, wants to speak not only with me, but with all those who listen to this story. It all began on a night seemingly ordinary. I was at home, kneeling, looking for the presence of God. My soul longed for answers, to understand better the ways of the Lord. I wanted to know Him, feel His presence, and understand what His purpose was for my life. But nothing could have prepared me for what would come next. Suddenly, an intense light filled the room. It was not like the light of a lamp or the sun. It was something divine, an indescribable presence that enveloped my whole being. My heart sped up, but instead of fear, I felt a deep peace. And then I heard a voice that had authority, but also an infinite love. My son has been chosen to see and bear witness to realities that many ignore. I want you to take this message to the world. Hell is real, heaven too, and those who do not obey my commandments about holy family and marriage are in great danger. In that instant, emotions washed over me. There was joy, because I knew that I was before something divine, but there was also fear, because I understood that I was about to see something that would transform my life forever. Without understanding how, my body began to feel light, as if my soul was being taken out of it. It was then that I realized that I was leaving my own body. I saw myself kneeling with my eyes closed, but my spirit was being taken on a journey that I would never have imagined. Then I heard the voice again. Do not be afraid. I am with you. Now you will see the destiny of those who reject me. And in an instant, I was transported to a place indescribable. I was invaded by an indescribable sensation. It was as if my spirit was being dragged to another dimension. Suddenly, I found myself in a terrifying place where a darkness dense covered everything. In the distance, what I saw made my heart freeze. There were 12 enormous whirlpools of shadow and fire spinning violently, sucking souls incessantly. Their heartbreaking screams filled the air as they were dragged without control, trying in vain to resist. From above, black and gigantic hands emerged from the darkness, trapping them without end. The sound was deafening. They were moans of pain, desperate cries, screams of horror. From the depths of that darkness arose a terrifying roar, as if damnation itself had a voice. The stench was unbearable, a mixture of sulfur and burnt flesh that made the air heavy and unbreathable. I was in hell, and I was seeing it with my own eyes. I wanted to back away, but I felt a presence at my side. I looked, and there He was, Jesus, holding my hand. His sole presence was the only reason why I could still remain standing without succumbing to terror. He looked at me with compassion and spoke. "Son, these are the whirlpools of judgment. Here are thrown the souls of those who rejected my word and lived according to their own desires. Each one of these whirlpools had a purpose. Some sucked in those who lived in deceit and falsehood. Others dragged those who betrayed the sanctity of marriage and family. But all led to one destination, the final abyss." I looked down and saw the central whirlpool, larger and more voracious than the others. Its edges were surrounded by flames that rose like fiery serpents before disappearing into nothingness. All the souls were led there with no possibility of escape. I tried to look away, but Jesus gently took my face and said, "You must see this. Your testimony will be true, because you will witness it with your own eyes." I squeezed my eyes, trying to contain the fear that grew within me. It was then that I saw something that took my breath away. Pastors, religious leaders, entire marriages being dragged into the whirlpool without return. Some were screaming desperately, trying to hold on to anything so as not to fall. Others seemed in shock, as if they had just understood the truth. Among them, I saw a man dressed as a shepherd who was being trampled by an angry crowd. His face reflected terror as dozens of voices accused him. "You deceived us. You told us there were no consequences for divorcing. You made us believe we could remarry without guilt." My heart ached upon hearing those words. I looked at Jesus, who was observing the scene with deep sadness, and explained, "This man knew the truth, but he chose to please men instead of obeying me. He taught lies, he twisted my word, and led many astray. Now he faces the consequences of his decisions." I looked around and saw that the walls of hell were covered with scriptures shining as if they were eternal warnings of what so many had ignored. I saw engraved this passage, "Therefore what God has joined together, let no man separate." Matthew 19:6. Another said, "If anyone destroys the temple of God, God will destroy him." 1 Corinthians 3:17. Each verse seemed to beat as if divine justice was still trying to warn those who were through. Jesus began to walk, and I followed him. Each step we took made me see more torture chambers, more prisons where souls paid the price of their actions, until we stopped in front of an imposing door, darker than all the others. Above it, a single phrase was written in fire, "Prison of broken marriages." My heart was pounding. I knew that what was behind the door would be even worse. The dark door opened slowly, releasing a suffocating heat that hit my face like a wave of fire. An unbearable stench of sulfur and burnt flesh permeated the air, making it almost unbreathable. As soon as I crossed the entrance, what I saw made my soul shudder. Endless rows of stone cells extended along dark corridors, lit only by flames that sprang from the floor. Inside each cell, couples screamed and accused each other, wrapped in eternal suffering. Some were submerged up to their knees in a boiling liquid that resembled lava, while others clung to the bars, crying out for help that would never come. I advanced next to Jesus, feeling the weight of pain in that place. In a cell larger and brighter than the others, a woman was sobbing, her body covered in burns, while two men held her arms and argued furiously. "She is my wife," one of them shouted. "No, I married her after he died," the other answered. The woman just cried, unable to speak, with her gaze lost in the void. I looked at Jesus in desperation, waiting for him to explain to me what I was seeing. He, with deep sadness in his voice, said, "The first man was her legitimate husband, but he died in a conflict, believing that he would never return. The woman married another, however, the first had not died. When he returned, he found her with another man. And instead of looking for me, instead of repenting and asking me for guidance, each one followed their own desires. Now they face the consequences." The horror of that revelation hit me hard. How many times have people treated marriage as something disposable, without understanding the eternal implications? Later, I saw an even more chilling scene. a group of people trampled on a man who was screaming, begging for mercy. His clothes, torn and burned, made me notice he dressed like a pastor. The crowd accused him with fury. "You deceived us. You told us that God understood divorce. You made us believe that remarriage had no consequences." Jesus looked at me and with a firm voice said, "This man was a religious leader. He knew my word, but he chose to preach what pleased people instead of the truth. He blessed marriages that were never recognized by God. He encouraged divorce without foundation, leading many into error. Now those who trusted him blame him because they share his same fate." I looked around and saw that the cell walls were covered with scriptures on fire. They were verses from the Bible, eternal warnings that could no longer be ignored. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. Matthew 19:6. If anyone destroys the temple of God, God will destroy him. 1 Corinthians 3:17. Each word burned with a fiery glow, as if they were the ultimate truth that those souls understood too late. My heart weighed with each scene that I witnessed. Hell was not only a place of physical punishment, but of regret without hope. The lament of those who understood the truth when there was no turning back was the most terrifying of all. Jesus followed down the hall, and with each step we saw more and more souls condemned by the decisions they made on earth. I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to wake up from that nightmare. But Jesus stopped before another door, even darker than the previous. "Now you will see the demons in charge of destroying homes." Fear grew inside me, but I knew I could not stop myself. Jesus extended his hand, and the door slowly opened, revealing an even more terrifying place. A hot and dense wind came out from inside, bringing with it a nauseating stench of sulfur and decay. As soon as I took a step inside, I heard chilling roars, growls full of hatred and uncontrollable fury. In that instant, I knew that we were in the place where the demons responsible for the destruction of the families were. In front of us, chained to huge pillars of stone, there were grotesque-looking creatures. Some had reptilian bodies with black scales and eyes shining like burning embers. Others were distorted shadows that seemed to absorb the light around them. I saw humanoid figures with sharp claws and barbarous smiles, watching us with contempt as they struggled against their chains, eager to break free. Jesus looked at me solemnly and said, "These are the spirits that destroy homes and marriages. They have been sent again and again to earth to sow discord, infidelity, violence, and deceit. They have dragged countless souls to perdition because many have opened the door to them without realizing it." My heart was beating strongly as I watched these demonic entities. It was then that I understood that each one represented a specific evil that attacked families. One of them, a thin being with grayish skin, had a sinister face and a mocking smile. Jesus pointed at him and said, "This is the spirit of betrayal. He whispers lies in the ears of husbands and wives, making them believe there is something better outside their marriage, that they can be happier with another person. He blinds their hearts, making them forget the vows they made in front of me." Beside me, I saw another creature, hunched over with sharp claws and bloodshot eyes, moving back and forth aggressively, scratching the ground in desperation. This is the spirit of domestic violence, poisoning hearts with anger and resentment, turning love into hate, trust into fear. Many families have been destroyed by its influence. I kept watching, and each demon seemed to have a specific evil purpose. I saw the spirit of pornography carrying thick chains that seemed to bind its victims, preventing them from escaping. I saw the spirit of addiction, an almost imperceptible shadow that slipped between the others, darkening everything it touched, as if draining the light and warmth of love in a home. Jesus continued, "Marriage is sacred, but many forget it. They do not see that by allowing these spirits to enter their lives, they are opening doors to destruction. What begins with small arguments, with lack of communication, with secrets and lies, soon becomes something uncontrollable." At that moment, my eyes were fixed on a special cell in the center of the place. Inside it, I saw a gigantic creature with black wings and red eyes like fire, holding an open book in his hands. Jesus looked at me and said gravely, "This is the spirit of divorce. It keeps a record of every couple that decides to separate without seeking my help. This demon feeds on the pain of pride and the hardness of the heart. It celebrates every home that is destroyed because it knows that by dividing a family, it is alienating entire generations from me." I couldn't stand it anymore. I wanted to leave. Seeing all this with my own eyes was too much for me, but Jesus put a hand on my shoulder and said firmly, "You must see it now. Now you understand what is really at stake for your soul." Amen. God bless you for watching and ending this message. Please do as a faithful servant of God to share with your loved ones. Amen.